Blog Talk Radio.
It is much to my joy and excitement to invite you all to join me in discovering Mary O'Malley. And we have talked to you before, Mary. It's so good to have you back. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back.
This is truly a masterful moment because it is an expression of spontaneity and how spirit moves. And as a clinical psychologist, a clinical hypnotherapist, I tend to try to be really research-oriented. There's tons of research in what we're going to talk about, Mary, but I think today we're actually going to be very experiential so that people can move into their ponderment about the spiritual realm, their questions about their psychic powers or the psychic phenomena that goes on, and their involvement with emotional healing as it relates to relationships in our past. And I could go on and on, but the introduction is Mary O'Malley. You have arrived to tell us about the psychic world that you have been able to touch. So where do you want to start us on this adventure today?
Well, I guess start from the beginning. Many years ago, my dear friend Carol Francis sort of gave me that nudge into exploring my psychic talents. And you being such a scientist, I felt comfortable exploring that with you. And then it just kind of took off from there until my experience this weekend. And I was able to do a mediumship psychic reading for a group of people in a room. And it was my first experience really doing it that way. And it was just profound for me, and also for the people in the room. But for me, just expanding myself in that way, it was, it was just an incredible experience. And I learned so much from the process, even though I've been doing this for so many years. Just opening myself up to doing it in a new way allowed me to learn so much.
So you're going to take us through this expansion that you went through, and it's interesting that we're using this word expansion because while I've been writing and authoring and working on chapters and books and marketing this weekend, the word expansion over and over has come to mind. I've been studying just to put us into the scientific realm for just a second. I've been studying an amazing book called Singularity, and it's about human beings transcending their biology. And this scientist talks about technology just advancing so amazingly, geometrically. If every year it's doubling, then just imagine what doubling means down the road. But what occurred to me while reading this amazingly interesting book about the expansion of technology is that the human psyche, the human spirit, the human soul, the human mind, the brain even, is not keeping up to speed with this incredible advancement, and yet we as human beings created this advancement. So I began to realize that part of what is involved in our spiritual exploration, the power of our mind, our spirit, our soul, our connection to domains that are outside of our physical biology, transcending our biology, is our psychic capacities, Mary. And I think that listeners, you are about to hear things that Mary went through and took others through, and I want you to just open yourself up, put aside the critical judgment for a period of time just so you can go in awe, and then you can go back to critical judgment. That's a helpful state of mind as well. And Mary, can you start us on the journey as it began to transpire this weekend, or with the first story of your weekend that comes to mind that you think is the place to begin that helps everybody go, okay, we're on a journey here, a journey of personal expansion?
it was interesting, the group of people that came together, because I checked right into the spirit right away and said, well, how did they know each other before? Because I believe that, we have so many instances to reconnect with each other, through spiritual other lives. And I got this very clear picture of, and it was all women, slogging through the mud and the blood sometime during World War I. They were all nurses. And I just was so amazed. There's this room full of healers, all back together again. And I just was touched, just that opportunity for them to reconnect on that spiritual level. So that pretty much started it.
Wow.
And then, I think what got me the most through all this is, as people pass on and they stay connected to us, or we continue to keep them connected to us. Mm-hmm. We hold on to them so tightly. But what I was able to see through this work on Friday night was how damaging that can be, both for the person who's passed on, in keeping them in a place, in that human place of anguish or control, or whatever experience they were having, and at the same time holding us back, because we're still influenced by that entity that we're holding on to so tightly. Mm-hmm. And so the reality of our existence is being even shaped and molded in many ways by that connection, that, we can stay connected, we can send love and all that kind of, everything we need to, we can talk to them, they're all still around. But what I'm talking about is that hold on tight connection. And it doesn't allow the spirit to move on to finding out who they truly are and what their next journey is. And it doesn't allow us to move on, because we're trapped in a past, in a past relationship, in past patterns that, we're supposed to move through. So in that way, I think we have to be careful about what we do with that person who's passed on, what our expectation is of that person who's passed on.
Well, can you give us an example, or can you walk us down a particular path that, without disclosing personal details necessarily, but yet giving us a specific journey that just led to this lesson?
Okay. The first one was the spirit was the mom, and very connected still to the daughter, but the mom in life was very controlling. From her perspective, it was the only way to be a good mother is to control every aspect of her children's life. And she was still trying to do this. And the person involved was taking on all that energy from the mom in order to protect her siblings from that energy. She knew intuitively what was going on, but she didn't realize how it was affecting both her and her mother, keeping her mother from moving on and moving into who she truly is, and moving on to her next journey. So that's a lot of pressure for this person in my class, to be carrying all that, and quite unnecessary and not healthy, all the way around for us. In another instance, it was someone hanging on to a person in their life that was very important, that had a very tragic ending, and the anguish that this poor soul was in and so lost. And in my mind, all the love that this woman missed out on because of that very, very strong connection to this young man. In that one, around the young man, and he was so anguished and he was so lost, he just, didn't know how to let go, didn't know how to move on, couldn't do it. And around him I saw three angels, and one of them was Archangel Michael. And so we got the permission to begin this releasing. And Archangel Michael literally took his sword and started severing those connections. but the connection was so strong and it had been going on for so long that I was kind of shocked at the violence.